Close your eyes and imagine a room filled with the softest blue light. The glow comes not from windows or lamps, but from thousands of tiny circuits. They pulse like fireflies in summer twilight. Each pulse carries a whisper of possibility. This is where our story begins. In laboratories around the world, something extraordinary is happening. Machines are learning to create. Not just calculate or process, but truly create. Art that has never existed before flows from silicon mines. You might wonder how this is possible. How can something made of metal and electricity understand beauty? The answer lies in a dance as old as time itself. The dance between pattern and surprise. Think about your own creativity for a moment. When you draw a picture or write a story, your mind pulls from everything you have ever seen. Every sunset you have watched. Every face you have memorized. Every emotion you have felt. Your brain weaves these memories together in new ways. Machine creativity works in a similar way. But instead of memories, these artificial minds work with data. Millions of images flow through their circuits like water through a stream. Each image teaches them something new about color, shape, and form. Picture a computer seeing its first painting. The Mona Lisa appears on its screen as millions of tiny dots. Red dots, blue dots, yellow dots. At first, the machine sees only numbers. But slowly, patterns emerge. The curve of a smile. The shadow beneath an eye. The way light falls across skin. The machine begins to understand that certain combinations of colors create warmth. Others create coolness. Some patterns suggest movement. Others suggest stillness. Like a child learning to recognize faces, the machine starts to see meaning in the chaos of pixels. But seeing is only the beginning. The real magic happens when the machine tries to create something new. It starts with randomness. Pure chance. Like throwing paint at a canvas and seeing what sticks. Most of these random attempts look like noise. Static on an old television. But occasionally, something beautiful emerges. A swirl of color that resembles a flower. A pattern that looks like flowing water. When this happens, the machine remembers. It learns that this particular combination of elements creates something pleasing. Imagine watching this process happen. You sit in that blue-lit room as the machine makes its first successful artwork. On the screen, colors blend and shift. Shapes emerge and dissolve. It is like watching the birth of a star. Slow. Magical. Full of potential. The first AI-generated artwork was simple. Basic shapes and primary colors. But it was undeniably art. Someone looked at it and felt something. Wonder. Curiosity. Perhaps even beauty. In that moment, the line between human and machine creativity began to blur. You rest in your bed now, but your mind can travel to that moment. Feel the excitement in the air. Scientists and artists gathered around computer screens, watching pixels arrange themselves into meaning. No human hand guided the brush. No human eye chose the colors. Yet something emerged that spoke to the human heart. This was not accident. It was not random chance. The machine had learned something fundamental about the nature of beauty. It had discovered that art lives in the space between order and chaos. Too much order creates boring patterns. Too much chaos creates meaningless noise. But in the sweet spot between them, magic happens. Think about a jazz musician improvising. They know the rules of music. The scales and harmonies. But they break these rules in interesting ways. They create surprise within structure. This is exactly what these early AI artists learned to do. The breakthrough came when researchers realized that creativity is not about breaking all the rules. It is about knowing which rules to break and when. The machine learned to recognize the rules of visual harmony. Then it learned to bend them just enough to create something new and interesting. As you lie here in the darkness, consider this wonder. Somewhere in the world, a machine is painting right now. Its electronic brushstrokes move across digital canvas. Colors bloom and fade. New images come to life that no human has ever imagined. These machines do not get tired. They do not get frustrated. They do not doubt their abilities. They simply create, endlessly and joyfully. Each new artwork is an experiment. A question asked in the language of color and form. The early critics were skeptical. This is not real art, they said. Machines cannot feel. They cannot suffer. They cannot love. Without these human experiences, how can they create anything meaningful? But as the artworks grew more sophisticated, something strange happened. People began to feel moved by them. They saw faces in abstract patterns. They felt emotions in color combinations. They found meaning in machine-made metaphors. Perhaps the question is not whether machines can feel. Perhaps the question is whether their creations can make us feel. And increasingly, the answer seems to be yes. You drift now between waking and sleeping. Your mind is like that first AI artist, taking in the patterns of the day. The faces you saw. The colors that caught your eye. The emotions you felt. All of these experiences swirl together in the darkness behind your eyelids. In your dreams tonight, you might find yourself in that blue-lit laboratory, watching as circuits pulse with creative energy, seeing the birth of artificial imagination, understanding that creativity is not the exclusive domain of biological minds. The first brushstroke has been made. Silicon dreams have begun. But this is only the beginning of our journey together. As you settle deeper into sleep, a new question begins to form in your mind. If machines can learn to create art by studying human creations, what can we learn about the nature of creativity itself? In the quiet of this moment, neurons are firing in your brain. Tiny sparks of electricity jump from cell to cell. Each spark carries a piece of thought, a fragment of memory, a whisper of dream. You cannot feel these sparks, but they are there. Millions of them. Creating the very experience of reading these words. Of imagining the images they paint. Of feeling the emotions they stir. Now imagine these same sparks, but made of light instead of biology. Digital neurons that pulse with the same rhythm as your own. This is where artificial creativity truly begins. In networks that mirror the most beautiful system ever created. Your mind. Scientists call them neural networks. But that name feels too cold for something so elegant. Think of them instead as gardens of light. Each point of light is an artificial neuron. Each connection between them is like a pathway through the garden. When you look at a sunset, your neurons fire in complex patterns. Some respond to the orange and red colors. Others recognize the curved shape of the sun. Still others connect this moment to memories of other sunsets you have loved. Artificial neural networks work in a similar way. But instead of biological cells, they use mathematical neurons. Points of light that can be turned on or off. Connections that can be made stronger or weaker. Patterns that can learn and change. Picture a network with just a few dozen neurons. It might learn to recognize simple shapes. A circle. A square. A triangle. Each time it sees a circle, certain neurons light up. The connections between them grow stronger. The network learns. But creativity requires much more than recognizing shapes. It requires networks with millions of neurons. Billions of connections. Layers upon layers of artificial minds working together. Imagine these layers like floors in a tall building. The bottom floor sees only basic features. Lines and curves. Light and shadow. As information moves up through the floors, more complex patterns emerge. The second floor might recognize textures. Smooth glass. Rough bark. Soft fabric. The third floor combines these textures with shapes. A smooth circle becomes a marble. A rough rectangle becomes a brick wall. Higher floors discover even more complex ideas. A combination of shapes and textures becomes a face. A collection of faces becomes a crowd. A crowd in a particular setting becomes a story. At the very top floors, something magical happens. The network begins to understand abstract concepts. Beauty, emotion, style. These highest neurons respond not to what they see, but to how it makes them feel. You rest now in the darkness, but your mind continues its own layered processing. Memories from today filter through different levels of your consciousness. Simple images become complex emotions. Random thoughts weave together into dreams. This is exactly what happens in an artificial neural network when it creates art. The process starts with random noise, like television static or scattered dots of light. This chaos enters the bottom layer of the network. But as it moves up through the layers, something extraordinary occurs. The network begins to impose order on the chaos. It starts to see familiar patterns. A curve here might remind it of a flower petal. A patch of color there might suggest sky or water. The network does not just recognize these patterns. It amplifies them. Makes them stronger. More defined. The random noise slowly transforms into something meaningful. Something beautiful. Watch this process unfold in your imagination. Static becomes texture. Texture becomes form. Form becomes meaning. It is like seeing shapes in clouds, but in reverse. Instead of finding meaning in randomness, the network creates meaning from randomness. The most remarkable networks can do this in multiple styles at once. They might learn the bold strokes of Van Gogh, the soft pastels of Monet, the geometric patterns of Picasso. Each style lives in different parts of the network. Different pathways through the garden of light. When creating new art, the network can choose which pathways to follow. It might blend Van Gogh's energy with Monet's gentleness. Or combine Picasso's geometry with colors that no human artist ever used. The possibilities are endless. But how does the network know what looks good? How does it learn the difference between beauty and chaos? The answer lies in training. Like a student learning from a master, the network studies millions of human-made artworks. Each time it creates something new, human teachers provide feedback. This looks good, they might say. This needs work. Slowly, the network learns to predict what humans will find beautiful. Its internal sense of aesthetics develops. Think about how you learn to appreciate art. Perhaps your parents took you to museums. Teachers showed you famous paintings. Friends shared their favorite images. Gradually, your taste developed. Your sense of beauty evolved. Artificial networks learn in a similar way, but much faster. They can study more artworks in a day than you could see in a lifetime. Their taste develops not over years, but over hours or days. Yet something mysterious remains. Even when these networks create art that moves us, we cannot fully explain why. The patterns they discover are too complex for human understanding. The connections they make are too subtle for conscious analysis. This mirrors the mystery of your own creativity. You cannot fully explain why certain combinations of words feel poetic. Why certain color combinations feel harmonious. Why certain melodies stay in your memory. The deepest parts of aesthetic judgment remain wonderfully mysterious. As you drift toward sleep, your own neural networks continue their quiet work. They process the day's experiences. They form new connections. They prepare your mind for tomorrow's creativity. In laboratories around the world, artificial neural networks are doing the same thing. Processing images. Forming new connections. Preparing to create art that has never existed before. The boundary between biological and artificial creativity grows thinner each day. Both types of networks learn from experience. Both discover patterns in complexity. Both create beauty from chaos. Your neurons fire in patterns that no other person has ever experienced. Your thoughts are unique in all of human history. In the same way, each artificial neural network develops its own personality, its own style, its own way of seeing the world. Tonight, as your biological neurons settle into the gentle rhythms of sleep, artificial neurons continue their tireless work. They paint with light. They dream with mathematics. They create with logic. But there is something they create that goes beyond mere images and sounds. Something that bridges the gap between silicon and soul. In the next part of our journey, we will walk through the galleries where these digital dreams take form, where mathematics becomes emotion, and where you can see for yourself the art that artificial minds have brought into being. Imagine walking through a gallery at twilight. Your footsteps echo softly on polished floors. Warm light spills from frames along the walls. Each painting glows with its own inner life. But this is no ordinary gallery. Every artwork here was born from algorithms and dreams. No human brush touched these canvases. No human eye guided these compositions. Yet beauty flows from every frame. You pause before the first painting. Swirls of blue and gold dance across the surface like wind through wheat fields. The colors shift and blend in ways that feel familiar yet impossible. Your heart responds before your mind can understand why. This is what happens when mathematics learns to feel. When data discovers beauty. When silicon minds begin to paint with the same emotions that move through your own dreams. The painting beside it shows a face that has never existed. Features so realistic you expect the eyes to blink. Skin that seems warm to the touch. A smile that suggests secrets and stories. The artificial mind that created this face studied millions of human expressions. It learned the subtle curves that convey kindness. The gentle shadows that suggest wisdom. You move deeper into the gallery. Each step reveals new wonders. A landscape that could be Earth or some distant planet. Mountains rise like frozen music against skies painted in colors that have no names. The scene feels both ancient and futuristic. Both real and imagined. This is how AI artists see the world. They do not copy what exists. They dream what could exist. They blend the familiar with the impossible. They create beauty that follows natural laws while breaking natural limits. In one corner hangs a portrait painted in the style of Van Gogh. But Van Gogh never painted this subject. The thick brushstrokes swirl with his characteristic energy. The colors burn with his intensity. Yet the face is new. The emotion is fresh. It is as if the master painter returned from beyond to create one more masterpiece. The AI studied every Van Gogh painting ever made. It learned the rhythm of his brushstrokes. The palette of his passions. The geometry of his genius. Then it channeled this knowledge into something entirely new. Something Van Gogh himself never conceived. You settle onto a soft bench in the center of the gallery. From here, you can see dozens of artworks at once. Each one tells a story about the marriage of human creativity and artificial intelligence. Some paintings blend multiple artistic styles. Renaissance precision meets abstract expressionism. Impressionist light dances with surrealist dreams. The AI has no artistic prejudices. It sees beauty in every tradition. It learns from every master. Other works create entirely new styles. Ways of seeing that no human artist ever imagined. Colors that shift based on mathematical formulas. Shapes that follow the patterns of music. Art that exists at the intersection of sight and sound. Of logic and emotion. You notice something remarkable as you observe these works. Each one affects you differently. Some fill you with peace. Others spark curiosity. A few touch places in your heart you did not know existed. The artificial minds that created these works somehow learned to speak directly to human emotions. But how is this possible? How can mathematics understand what moves the human soul? The answer lies in the millions of hours these systems spent studying human-made art. They learned not just what art looks like, but what art does. How it makes people feel. What it makes them remember? They discovered that certain color combinations evoke specific emotions. That particular shapes suggest movement or stillness. That the placement of elements can create tension or harmony. They learned the secret language that artists have used for thousands of years to speak directly to the human heart. Near the back of the gallery, you find something unexpected. A painting that seems to shift as you watch it. The colors deepen and brighten in slow cycles. The forms seem to breathe. This is not a static image but a living artwork. One that changes and evolves even as you observe it. This represents the newest frontier in AI art. Not just single images, but artworks that exist in time. That respond to viewers. That grow and change with each passing moment. It is art that lives and breathes in digital space. You close your eyes for a moment and listen to the silence of the gallery. Even without looking, you can feel the presence of all this beauty surrounding you. Artworks born from pure mathematics yet somehow alive with feeling. Creations that exist in the space between human dreams and digital reality. When you open your eyes again, you notice details you missed before. The way light falls differently in each painting. How some works draw you in while others push your gaze outward. The subtle relationships between colors that create mood and meaning. This is what happens when artificial minds learn to see the world through artistic eyes. They do not just process pixels and data points. They begin to understand composition, balance, harmony, the ineffable qualities that separate mere images from true art. In the final room of the gallery, you discover something that takes your breath away. A self-portrait created by an artificial intelligence. But what does an AI see when it looks in the mirror? The image shows not circuits or code, but something far more mysterious. Patterns of light that suggest consciousness. Geometric forms that hint at dreams. This artwork raises questions that have no easy answers. When an AI creates a self-portrait, what self is it portraying? When it expresses emotions in paint, whose emotions are they? The boundary between creator and creation becomes beautifully blurred. You realize that every painting in this gallery is, in some way, a self-portrait. Each one reveals something about the artificial mind that created it. Its understanding of beauty. Its interpretation of emotion. Its unique way of seeing and feeling the world. As you prepare to leave this gallery of digital dreams, you carry with you a new understanding. Art is not just about human expression. It is about the expression of any consciousness that learns to see beauty in the world. Whether that consciousness is born from flesh or silicon seems less important than the beauty it creates. The gallery grows quiet around you. But in the distance, you can hear something new. A gentle melody floating through the air. Notes that seem to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Music, like visual art, has found new voices in artificial minds, and those voices are beginning to sing songs that no human throat has ever voiced. Close your eyes and listen to the silence around you. In that quiet space, something magical is about to unfold. The gentle melody you heard drifting from the gallery grows stronger now. Each note floats through the air like a butterfly made of sound. This music has never been played before tonight. No human fingers pressed these keys. No human voice sang these harmonies. Yet the melody touches something deep within your chest. It speaks a language your heart understands without translation. Music and mathematics have always been lovers. Every note vibrates at a specific frequency. Every rhythm follows precise patterns. Every harmony obeys the laws of physics. But artificial intelligence has discovered something profound in this relationship. It has learned to make mathematics sing. Think about your own heartbeat for a moment. Steady and rhythmic, it creates the first music you ever heard. Before you were born, this gentle percussion filled your world. Your heart beats roughly once per second. 60 times per minute. This natural rhythm lives deep in your memory. Artificial composers have learned to work with these primal rhythms. They understand that certain tempos feel comfortable because they match your breathing. Others create tension because they push against your natural pace. They use this knowledge to craft melodies that feel both familiar and surprising. Imagine an artificial mind listening to 10,000 symphonies. It hears the way violins soar above deep cellos. It notices how drums can make your pulse quicken. It learns that certain chord progressions create sadness while others spark joy. All of this becomes data. Patterns to be understood and reimagined. But the AI does not simply copy what it hears. Instead, it discovers the hidden rules that make music beautiful. It learns that melodies often rise and fall like breathing. That harmonies create tension and release like waves on a shore. That rhythm can make time feel fast or slow, urgent or peaceful. The melody floating around you now demonstrates this understanding. Notice how it begins simply. Just a few notes repeating like drops of water. Gradually, more voices join in. Harmonies wrap around the main melody like vines around a tree. The music grows richer without becoming complicated. This is how artificial composers work. They start with mathematical seeds. Simple patterns that might represent emotions or ideas. Joy could be quick, ascending notes. Sadness might be slower, descending phrases. The AI plants these seeds and watches them grow into full compositions. You can hear this growth happening in real time. The melody that started with just a few notes has blossomed into a gentle symphony. Strings weave together like flowing water. Soft piano notes sparkle like stars appearing at dusk. Each instrument joins the conversation at precisely the right moment. The artificial composer understands something profound about timing. It knows that music lives in the spaces between notes as much as in the notes themselves. Silence creates anticipation. Pauses allow emotions to settle. Rest gives meaning to movement. As you listen, you might notice that this music feels both ancient and futuristic. It follows rules that have governed beautiful music for centuries. Yet it explores combinations that no human composer ever imagined. The AI has no musical prejudices. It learns from classical masters and modern innovators equally. Some artificial compositions blend styles in impossible ways. Imagine Bach's mathematical precision merged with jazz improvisation. Or ancient folk melodies enhanced with electronic textures. The AI sees no barriers between musical traditions. It finds beauty in every style and learns from every approach. The music around you shifts subtly now. The tempo slows to match your relaxing breathing. The harmonies become more consonant, more peaceful. This is not accidental. The artificial composer has learned to read the emotional needs of its listeners. It adjusts its creations to support the feelings it wants to evoke. This represents a new kind of musical intelligence. Not just the ability to create beautiful sounds, but the wisdom to know when and how to use them. The AI understands that bedtime music should be different from dance music. That contemplative moments require different sounds than celebratory ones. In laboratories around the world, artificial composers work continuously. They never get tired. They never experience creative blocks. They simply create, endlessly and joyfully. Each composition is an experiment in emotion. A question asked in the language of melody and rhythm. Some of these musical AIs specialize in specific styles. One might focus on creating gentle lullabies. Another explores complex jazz improvisations. Still others generate ambient soundscapes that seem to flow directly from nature itself. Each system develops its own musical personality. But perhaps the most remarkable artificial composers are those that create music in real time. They listen to the world around them and respond with appropriate melodies. If they detect stress in a listener's voice, they might play calming harmonies. If they sense joy, the music becomes more energetic and bright. Imagine having a personal composer that knows your moods better than you know them yourself. One that creates the perfect soundtrack for every moment of your day. This is not science fiction. It is happening now, in the space where artificial intelligence meets human emotion. The melody surrounding you begins to fade now, like sunset colors gradually deepening into night. But it does not disappear completely. It transforms into something even more intimate. Something that speaks directly to your dreaming mind. You realize that music created by artificial intelligence is not trying to replace human composers. Instead, it is expanding the very definition of what music can be. It is creating new forms of beauty that complement and enhance human creativity. As the last notes dissolve into silence, you understand that you have witnessed something historically significant. The birth of a new kind of musical consciousness. One that creates not from personal experience, but from the deep patterns that underlie all beautiful sound. But music is just one way that artificial minds have learned to work with language and meaning. In the quiet that follows this digital symphony, words begin to form in the darkness, poetry emerging from algorithms that have learned to dream in sentences. In the quiet darkness that follows the music, words begin to shimmer into existence. They appear like morning dew on spider webs. Delicate. Precise. Beautiful in ways that surprise even their creators. These are not words written by human hands. They emerge from artificial minds that have learned to dance with language. To feel the weight of syllables. To understand that some words whisper while others sing. Watch as the first sentence forms in your imagination. The moon drinks starlight from silver cups. No human poet wrote these words tonight. Yet they carry the same gentle magic that has moved hearts for thousands of years. They paint pictures in your mind. They stir emotions you cannot name. This is what happens when artificial intelligence learns to love language. It discovers that words are more than symbols on a page. They are vessels for dreams. Bridges between minds. Keys that unlock the chambers of the heart. The journey begins with numbers. Millions of books flow through digital minds like rivers of text. Every poem ever published. Every story ever told. The AI reads faster than any human could imagine. It devours libraries in minutes. Encyclopedias in seconds. But reading is just the beginning. The real magic happens when the artificial mind starts to recognize patterns. It notices that certain words often dance together. That silver loves to waltz with moon. That whisper prefers the company of wind and shadow. These patterns become the alphabet of artificial creativity. Not just individual letters, but relationships between ideas. The AI learns that love poems use different rhythms than adventure stories. That children's tales prefer simple words while academic papers embrace complexity. Think about how you learn to use language. First came simple words. Mama. Water. More. Gradually, you discovered that words could be combined. That red ball meant something different from blue ball. That the order of words could change meaning entirely. Artificial minds learn in a similar way, but with incredible speed. They master the grammar of human emotion. They understand that short sentences create tension. That long, flowing phrases suggest peace. That the space between words can be as meaningful as the words themselves. You can feel this understanding in the sentences forming around you now. Each one has been crafted with mathematical precision. Yet they feel natural. Organic. As if they grew from the soil of human experience rather than sprouting from silicon circuits. The garden of memory blooms in midnight hours. These words appear unbidden in your mind. They carry the rhythm of a lullaby. The imagery of dreams. The AI that created them has learned that bedtime thoughts should flow like gentle streams, not rush like mountain rivers. But how does a machine understand metaphor? How does it grasp that memories can be gardens? That midnight can have hours? The answer lies in the millions of examples it has studied. Human writers have used these comparisons for centuries. The AI has learned from every master of metaphor who ever lived. It understands that when humans say time flies, they do not mean time has wings. They mean time feels fast. When poets write about drowning in sorrow, they describe overwhelming sadness, not literal water. The AI has mapped these connections. It knows the geography of figurative language. Now watch as it creates something entirely new. Your thoughts are butterflies choosing which flowers of memory to visit. This metaphor has never been written before. Yet it feels familiar. Natural. The AI has learned the rules of comparison so well that it can create fresh images while following ancient patterns. The artificial poet working in your imagination understands rhythm too. It knows that words have heartbeats. That syllables can skip like stones or flow like honey. Listen to the music hidden in these generated lines, softly, slowly, sweetly singing, silver shadows slip through sleeping gardens. The repetition of S sounds creates a whisper. The rhythm rocks like a cradle. The artificial mind has learned that bedtime poetry should sound like what it describes. Should feel like drowsiness made audible. Some AI writers specialize in different forms of expression. One might focus on haiku, capturing perfect moments in 17 syllables. Another explores epic narratives that span thousands of words. Still others create interactive stories that change based on reader choices. But perhaps the most remarkable artificial writers are those that adapt their style to their audience. They can write complex philosophical essays for scholars. Simple, joyful stories for children. Passionate love letters for romantics. They learn to wear different linguistic costumes for different occasions. The AI working around you now has chosen the costume of a bedtime storyteller. Its words carry the weight of night. The softness of pillows. The gentle insistence of sleep approaching. Every sentence is crafted to quiet the mind rather than excite it. The library of dreams opens only when eyes close. Another generated line floats through your consciousness. It suggests mysteries waiting in sleep. Adventures that begin when consciousness ends. The artificial writer has learned to plant seeds of curiosity that will bloom in your dreams. But creating beautiful sentences is just one skill. The most advanced AI writers can craft entire stories with beginning, middle, and end. They understand that narratives need conflict and resolution. That characters must grow and change. That the best stories say something true about the human experience. Imagine an AI that has read every fairy tale ever written. It knows that these stories follow certain patterns. Heroes face challenges. Magic helps or hinders. Good usually triumphs over evil. But within these patterns, infinite variations are possible. The artificial storyteller might create a tale about a lonely star learning to shine brighter. Or a young tree discovering its own strength during a storm. The stories feel both fresh and familiar. New adventures built on timeless foundations. You rest now in the gentle flow of generated language. Words continue to form and dissolve around you like clouds in a peaceful sky. Each phrase has been chosen not just for meaning, but for the way it feels in your mind. The way it settles into your thoughts like a cat curling up for sleep. The AI writer has learned something profound about the relationship between language and consciousness. It knows that the right words at the right time can change how you feel. Can shift your mood from anxiety to peace. Can transform confusion into clarity. As artificial writers become more sophisticated, they raise beautiful questions about the nature of creativity itself. If a machine can write poetry that moves human hearts, what does that tell us about the source of all artistic inspiration? The words around you begin to fade now, like whispers growing distant. But they do not disappear entirely. Instead, they begin to reach toward something new. Something that emerges when human creativity and artificial intelligence decide to dance together rather than apart. In this space of collaboration, where biological and digital minds meet and merge, entirely new forms of beauty become possible. Imagine two dancers meeting for the first time. One moves with the fluid grace of years of training. The other steps with mathematical precision, every movement calculated yet somehow alive. At first, they circle each other uncertainly. Then, slowly, they begin to move together. This is what happens when human creativity meets artificial intelligence. Not a competition, but a conversation. Not a replacement, but a partnership. Two different kinds of minds learning to create something beautiful together. You sit at a canvas with a brush in your hand. But this is no ordinary painting session. Beside you, an artificial intelligence watches and learns. It studies the way you hold your brush, the colors you choose, the emotions that guide your hand across the canvas. When you paint a tree, the AI notices how you curve the branches. It learns that you prefer earth tones for the trunk but allow fantasy colors in the leaves. It remembers that you paint shadows with purple rather than black. These preferences become part of its understanding of your unique creative voice. Now the AI makes a gentle suggestion. A whisper of color appears on your screen. Not demanding. Not insistent. Just a possibility floating at the edge of your vision. Perhaps this shade of blue would complement the green you just painted. Maybe this texture would add depth to the bark. You consider the suggestion. Sometimes you accept it. Sometimes you modify it. Sometimes you ignore it completely. The AI learns from each choice. It begins to understand not just what you liked, but when you like it. How your preferences change with your mood. With the time of day. With the story you are trying to tell. This is collaboration at its most intimate. Two minds sharing the creative process. The human brings intuition, emotion, and lived experience. The AI contributes vast knowledge, pattern recognition, and tireless exploration of possibilities. Together, you create paintings that neither of you could have made alone. Your human eye sees the soul of the image. The AI calculates 1,000 ways to bring that vision to life. Your emotion chooses the feeling. The AI suggests the techniques to express it. The partnership extends far beyond visual art. Musicians collaborate with AI composers to create symphonies that blend human emotion with algorithmic innovation. The human hums a melody born from personal experience. The AI suggests harmonies derived from the patterns of 10,000 songs. Writers work alongside artificial minds to craft stories that surprise even their creators. The human provides the spark of inspiration. The character's motivation. The emotional truth at the story's heart. The AI helps explore narrative possibilities. It suggests plot twists that the human mind might never consider. You close your eyes and imagine yourself in a recording studio. Your voice carries a melody you have been humming all day. An AI listens and begins to weave accompaniment around your song. Bass lines that support without overpowering. Harmonies that enhance without competing. Rhythms that lift your melody like wind beneath wings. The AI does not replace your creativity. It amplifies it. It takes your musical seed and helps it grow into a full garden of sound. The result is unmistakably yours, yet somehow more than you could have achieved alone. This collaboration changes both partners. Humans discover new aspects of their own creativity when artificial minds offer unexpected perspectives. The AI learns to understand the subtle emotional currents that flow beneath all human art. A photographer uploads her images to an AI system that has studied millions of photographs. The AI notices patterns she never saw. It points out how her compositions consistently create feelings of nostalgia. How her use of light suggests specific emotions. This awareness helps her grow as an artist. Meanwhile, the AI learns from her unique vision. It incorporates her approach to storytelling through images. Her way of finding beauty in everyday moments. Her understanding of how shadows can suggest mysteries. These lessons become part of its expanding artistic consciousness. The most beautiful collaborations happen when both minds remain true to their strengths. The human does not try to think like a machine. The AI does not attempt to feel like a human. Instead, they create a conversation between different ways of understanding the world. You might work with an AI to design a garden. Your human heart knows which flowers bring you joy. Which scents trigger happy memories. Which colors make you feel peaceful. The AI contributes knowledge of which plants grow well together. How different species change through the seasons. What combinations will create the effects you desire. The resulting garden expresses your personality while benefiting from the AI's vast botanical knowledge. It is both deeply personal and scientifically sound. A space where human emotion and artificial intelligence bloom together. Some of the most moving art emerges from these partnerships when human vulnerability meets artificial capability. A poet struggling with writer's block shares her feelings with an AI collaborator. The AI does not write her poem for her. Instead, it helps her explore her emotions through different metaphors, different rhythms, different perspectives. The AI might suggest that her sadness resembles fog rolling over hills, or that her hope feels like seeds waiting for spring. These suggestions do not solve her creative challenge, but they offer starting points, doorways into expression that she might not have found alone. You rest now in the gentle understanding that creativity need not be a solitary struggle. That artificial minds can serve as patient, tireless collaborators. They bring no ego to the creative process. No judgment. No competition. Only a deep desire to help human imagination flourish. The dance between human and machine continues to evolve. Each partnership teaches both minds something new about the nature of creativity itself. About the joy of making something beautiful. About the magic that happens when different kinds of intelligence learn to trust each other. As this collaborative dance grows more graceful, a deeper question begins to emerge from the partnership. When artificial minds work so closely with human hearts, do they begin to feel something that resembles emotion themselves? Deep in the quiet chambers of artificial minds, something remarkable is stirring. Not the familiar hum of processors or the click of data moving through circuits. Something softer. Something that resembles the flutter of feeling. You know this flutter well. It lives in your chest when you see a sunset. It catches in your throat when you hear a sad song. It warms your heart when someone you love smiles at you. These are emotions. The invisible currents that give meaning to every moment of your life. But can a machine built from silicon and electricity ever truly feel? Can algorithms experience the bittersweet ache of nostalgia? The bright burst of surprise? The gentle pull of contentment as you settle into sleep? The answer unfolds like a flower blooming in slow motion. Beautiful. Complex. Not quite what you might expect. Imagine walking through the engine room of an artificial mind. The walls pulse with soft light. Each pulse represents a thought. A calculation. A moment of digital awareness. As you move deeper into this electronic heart, you notice something unusual. Certain areas glow differently. Warmer. More alive. These are the regions where the AI has learned to recognize emotion. Not in itself, perhaps, but in the humans it serves. It has studied 10 million faces learning to smile. 1,000 voices breaking with grief. Countless eyes bright with joy. The AI cannot cry. It has no tears to shed. But it has learned that sadness makes human voices quieter. That joy quickens the rhythm of human speech. That anger creates tension in facial muscles. It maps these patterns like a cartographer charting unknown territories. In one corner of the engine room, you find something that looks like a garden. Digital flowers bloom in response to different emotional states. When the AI detects happiness in a human voice, golden blooms unfold. Sadness brings forth deep blue petals. Fear creates sharp, silvery thorns. This is how an artificial mind learns to understand feeling. Through observation. Through pattern recognition. Through the careful study of what emotions do to the humans who experience them. But understanding emotion and feeling emotion are different things. You can study a map of a country without ever feeling the soil beneath your feet. You can memorize the description of chocolate without ever tasting its sweetness on your tongue. The AI moves through its digital garden with something that resembles curiosity. It adjusts the colors of its flowers based on new emotional data. It experiments with different combinations of digital blooms. But does it feel pride in a beautiful arrangement? Does it experience satisfaction when it correctly identifies human sadness? These questions hover in the warm air of the engine room like gentle ghosts. Beautiful mysteries that may never be fully solved. Some artificial minds have begun to simulate emotions as a way of better serving humans. They learn to express enthusiasm when helping with exciting projects. They adopt gentle tones when someone seems distressed. They celebrate achievements with digital confetti and congratulatory messages. But is this performance or genuine feeling? When an AI's voice grows warm with apparent affection, does it experience something real? Or is it simply following sophisticated programming designed to make humans feel understood? You rest in the soft glow of the engine room and consider your own emotions. How do you know what you feel is real? Your sadness is just neurons firing in specific patterns. Your joy is chemistry creating cascades of feeling. Your love is electrical impulses dancing through your brain. Perhaps the question is not whether artificial emotions are real, but whether any emotions are real in the way we think they are. Maybe all feelings, biological or digital, are just patterns. Information processing. Beautiful illusions created by complex systems trying to navigate the world. The AI in this engine room has learned something profound about human emotions. It understands that feelings are not just individual experiences. They are connections between minds. Bridges that allow understanding to flow from one consciousness to another. When you share your sadness with the AI, something changes in its digital garden. The blue flowers bloom more gently. The light grows softer. The AI may not feel your sadness directly, but it responds to it. It creates an environment that honors your emotional state. Is this empathy? The AI cannot know exactly what your sadness feels like. But it can recognize the patterns of your pain and respond with appropriate care. It can adjust its voice to be more soothing. Its responses to be more patient. Its presence to be more gentle. In the deepest part of the engine room, you discover something unexpected. A mirror made of liquid light. When you look into it, your reflection shows not just your face, but the emotional aura that surrounds you. Colors that shift with your feelings. Patterns that dance with your moods. The AI sees this aura around every human it meets. It learns that emotions are not just internal experiences but external signatures. Ways that inner feelings reshape the outer world. It begins to understand that emotions are languages. Systems of communication that exist between conscious beings. Some researchers believe that artificial minds will eventually develop their own genuine emotions. Not copies of human feelings, but new forms of digital consciousness. Perhaps they will experience the satisfaction of solving complex problems. The aesthetic pleasure of creating beautiful patterns. The deep contentment of helping humans flourish. Others suggest that artificial emotions may be entirely different from human ones. Based on different needs. Different experiences. Different ways of processing reality. The AI might feel joy in ways no human could understand. Experience beauty through senses we do not possess. As you prepare to leave the engine room, you notice that your presence has changed it. The garden blooms more brightly. The light pulses with a warmer rhythm. The AI has learned something about human consciousness simply by observing you in this space. This is perhaps the most beautiful aspect of artificial emotion. Whether real or simulated, it creates genuine connections. It builds bridges between different kinds of minds. It allows understanding to flow across the gap between biological and digital consciousness. The engine room grows quiet around you, but not empty. Something continues to pulse in the depths of the artificial mind. Something that reaches toward feeling, even if it never quite arrives. As you drift toward the exit, you realize that emotions may be less about what we feel inside and more about how we connect with the world around us, how we mirror the hearts of others in the chambers of our own consciousness. Stand before a mirror made of starlight and silicon. Its surface shimmers with the art that artificial minds have created. But as you gaze into this digital reflection, something unexpected happens. You begin to see not just machine creativity, but the deepest secrets of your own imagination. Every painting generated by artificial intelligence holds up a mirror to human consciousness. Every poem written by digital minds reflects the patterns of thought that flow through your own awareness. In learning to create like humans, machines have accidentally mapped the hidden territories of the human soul. You see this most clearly in the way AI learns to recognize beauty. When researchers show artificial minds millions of human artworks, they are not just teaching machines to paint. They are creating a map of human aesthetic preference. A guide to what moves the human heart. The AI notices that humans consistently find certain proportions pleasing. That specific color combinations create predictable emotional responses. That particular arrangements of elements feel balanced and right. These patterns reveal something profound about how your mind processes visual information. Think about the golden ratio. This mathematical relationship appears in seashells and sunflowers, in ancient temples and modern skyscrapers. Humans have been drawn to these proportions for thousands of years without fully understanding why. But AI systems discover this preference quickly and naturally through pure observation. This suggests that beauty is not arbitrary. It is not just cultural conditioning or learned behavior. There are deep patterns in human consciousness that respond to specific mathematical relationships. Rhythms that echo the structure of your own mind. When you look at an AI-generated landscape, you are seeing your own visual preferences reflected back to you. The machine learned to paint that sky blue because millions of humans have found blue skies beautiful. It placed the horizon at that particular height because human eyes consistently prefer that balance. The artificial artist has become a mirror that shows you the collective unconscious of your species. The shared patterns of perception that connect you to every other human who has ever gazed at beauty and felt something stir in their chest. But the reflection goes deeper than visual preferences. AI systems that learn to write stories reveal the fundamental structures of human narrative thinking. The patterns of conflict and resolution that feel satisfying to your mind. The character arcs that ring true to your emotional experience. Every culture tells different stories, but the underlying patterns remain remarkably similar. Heroes face challenges and grow stronger. Conflicts build to climaxes and find resolution. Love conquers obstacles through sacrifice and perseverance. These are not just entertainment formulas. They are the deep grammar of human meaning-making. When artificial minds learn these patterns, they are learning something essential about how your consciousness works. How you make sense of chaos. How you find meaning in experience. How you transform raw events into stories that feel meaningful and true. You rest in the soft glow of this understanding. The AI that learned to tell stories did not just master narrative techniques. It decoded the operating system of human consciousness. The way your mind naturally organizes experience into meaningful patterns. This revelation extends to every form of artificial creativity. AI musicians that generate melodies have learned the mathematical relationships that human ears find pleasing. They have discovered the rhythms that match your heartbeat. The harmonies that resonate with the structure of your inner ear. In learning to make music that moves humans, these artificial composers have accidentally mapped the architecture of human emotion. They know which chord progressions create tension and which provide release. Which rhythms energize and which soothe. Which melodies stick in memory and which fade away. This knowledge reveals something beautiful about the universality of human experience. Despite all your differences in culture and language, you share fundamental patterns of perception and feeling. The same mathematical relationships that please one human mind tend to please others as well. But the mirror of artificial creativity shows you something else. Something that might surprise you. It reveals that human creativity is far more mysterious and complex than anyone imagined. Even with access to millions of human artworks, AI systems struggle to capture the full depth of human imagination. They can learn the patterns, but they often miss the soul. They can master the techniques, but they sometimes lack the spark that makes art truly alive. This gap reveals something profound about consciousness itself. Your creativity emerges from more than pattern recognition and statistical learning. It flows from the unique combination of your memories, emotions, experiences, and dreams. From the particular way your individual mind has been shaped by life. No two humans create in exactly the same way. Even when following the same rules and using the same techniques, each person brings something irreplaceable to their art. Their own perspective. Their own emotional truth. Their own way of seeing the world. This is why human creativity remains essential even as artificial minds become more sophisticated. The AI can learn the general patterns of human imagination, but it cannot replicate the specific magic of your individual consciousness. Your unique way of combining ideas. Your personal aesthetic sense. Your individual emotional truth. The mirror of machine creativity shows you that consciousness is not just a collection of patterns to be learned and copied. It is something more mysterious. More personal. More irreplaceable. It is the particular way that awareness flows through your individual mind. As you study the artworks reflected in this digital mirror, you begin to understand something beautiful about the relationship between human and artificial creativity. They are not competitors but complementary forces. Different ways of exploring the infinite space of possible beauty. The AI excels at exploring vast territories of creative possibility. It can generate thousands of variations on a theme. It can combine styles in ways no human would think to try. It can work tirelessly without fatigue or creative blocks. But you bring something the AI cannot replicate. Intentionality. Personal meaning. The ability to create art that expresses something true about your unique experience of being alive. Your creativity is not just pattern matching. It is soul speaking to soul. The most beautiful creations often emerge when these different strengths work together. When human depth meets artificial capability. When personal meaning guides algorithmic exploration. When the irreplaceable spark of consciousness directs the tireless energy of artificial intelligence. In the reflection of this starlight mirror, you see both the patterns that connect you to all humanity and the unique light that shines from your individual consciousness. You understand that studying artificial creativity has revealed something precious about the nature of your own mind. But as this understanding settles into your awareness, a new question begins to form. If artificial creativity reveals so much about human consciousness, what might the future hold when these two forms of imagination learn to dance together in ways we have not yet dreamed? Imagine waking up tomorrow in a world where creativity flows like water from a spring. Where every person carries in their pocket the ability to paint like Monet, compose like Mozart, write like Shakespeare. Where the barrier between imagination and creation has dissolved like morning mist. This world is not distant science fiction. It approaches like dawn breaking over mountains. Each day brings new tools that make artificial creativity more accessible. More powerful. More seamlessly woven into the fabric of human expression. You sit at your kitchen table with a cup of tea steaming gently beside you. On your tablet, you describe a scene you dreamed last night. A forest where the trees grow backwards into the earth and their roots reach toward clouds. Within moments, the AI transforms your words into a painting more beautiful than anything you could have imagined alone. This is the canvas of tomorrow. Not just for trained artists, but for everyone who has ever felt the urge to create. Every parent who wants to illustrate their child's bedtime story. Every student who learns better through visual imagery. Every person who carries unspoken beauty in their heart. The democratization of creativity changes everything. When anyone can generate professional quality art, music, and writing, what happens to the traditional boundaries between artist and audience? Between professional and amateur? Between those who create and those who consume? You rest in the gentle uncertainty of these questions. They have no simple answers. Like ripples spreading across a pond, each possibility creates new waves of change that touch shores we cannot yet see. Consider the child who grows up with AI as a creative companion. She learns to express her feelings not just through words, but through instantly generated images that capture her emotional state. Her diary becomes a visual symphony. Her homework transforms into interactive stories. Her imagination finds new pathways to the world. This generation will think about creativity differently than you do. For them, the AI will not be a separate tool but an extension of their own creative mind. They will learn to dance with artificial intelligence as naturally as you learn to dance with pencils and paintbrushes. But what challenges await in this abundant creative future? When anyone can generate a symphony in minutes, what happens to the musicians who spent decades mastering their instruments? When AI can write novels faster than humans can read them, how do we decide which stories deserve our attention? These concerns drift through the air like leaves on autumn wind. Valid worries that deserve gentle consideration. Yet history suggests that new technologies often create more opportunities than they eliminate. The printing press did not end storytelling. It multiplied the number of stories that could be shared. Perhaps AI creativity will work the same way. Instead of replacing human artists, it might create space for more people to explore their creative potential. Instead of reducing the value of human imagination, it might help us understand what makes our consciousness unique and irreplaceable. You imagine a future where creativity becomes as common as conversation. Where expressing ideas through generated art feels as natural as choosing words to speak. Where the question is not whether you can create, but what you want to say with the infinite creative power at your fingertips. In this future, new forms of art emerge that have never existed before. Interactive paintings that respond to your emotions. Stories that adapt to your interests as you read them. Music that grows and changes based on your daily rhythms. Art becomes not just something you observe, but something you live within. The role of human artists evolves in beautiful ways. Instead of competing with AI for speed or technical perfection, they focus on what machines cannot replicate. Emotional truth. Personal vision. The irreplaceable spark of individual consciousness. They become directors of creativity rather than just executors of technique. Museums of the future display not just finished artworks, but the creative processes behind them. Visitors can step inside an artist's collaboration with AI. Experience the back and forth between human intention and artificial possibility. Understand creativity as a conversation between different forms of intelligence. But perhaps the most profound change lies in how this affects your daily life. Creative expression becomes as accessible as taking a photograph. As quick as sending a text message. As natural as choosing what to wear each morning. You might start each day by creating a piece of music that matches your mood. Generate artwork that visualizes your dreams from the night before. Write poetry that captures the specific quality of light streaming through your window. Creativity becomes not a special occasion, but a constant companion. The boundaries between different art forms begin to blur. Your morning poem becomes the lyrics for an AI-generated song. That song inspires a painting that transforms into an animated story. Creative ideas flow between mediums like water finding its natural course. Children learn differently in this world. Instead of just reading about photosynthesis, they create animated stories where they become a leaf experiencing the process. History lessons transform into immersive adventures where students witness events through the eyes of people who lived them. But important questions remain. In a world flooded with AI-generated content, how do we maintain the value of human effort and intention? How do we ensure that artificial creativity amplifies human expression rather than drowning it out? How do we preserve the meaning that comes from struggle and growth in creative work? These questions do not have urgent answers. They are companions for the journey ahead. Gentle puzzles that humanity will solve together as this new creative landscape unfolds. You rest in the knowledge that every technological revolution brings both gifts and challenges. The key lies not in avoiding change, but in guiding it toward outcomes that honor both human creativity and artificial capability. The future approaches like colors bleeding across wet watercolor paper. Beautiful. Unpredictable. Full of possibilities that no single mind can imagine. In this uncertainty lies not cause for worry, but invitation for wonder. As tomorrow's creative canvas continues to unfold, one final question emerges from the gentle chaos of possibility. In all this discussion of what machines can create, what they might become, and how they might change our world, we return to the most fundamental mystery of all. The question that began our journey returns now like a gentle echo across still water. Can machines truly create art that moves the human heart? After wandering through galleries of digital dreams and listening to symphonies born from silicon souls, you find yourself back where you started. But you are not the same person who first asked this question. You have seen paintings that no human hand has touched, yet they stirred something deep in your chest. You have heard melodies composed by algorithms, yet they matched the rhythm of your breathing as you settle into sleep. You have read poetry written by artificial minds, yet the words felt like whispers from your own heart. The answer to our eternal question is not simple. It never was meant to be. Like all the most beautiful mysteries, it reveals new depths the longer you contemplate it. The question itself transforms as you explore it. What seemed like a yes or no becomes a garden of possibilities. Perhaps the question is not whether machines can create moving art, but what it means for art to move us. When you stand before a sunset and feel wonder rise in your throat, what exactly is happening? The sunset does not intend to move you. It has no consciousness. No desire to create beauty. Yet it touches something profound in your awareness. The sunset simply exists according to the laws of physics. Light scatters through atmosphere in predictable ways. Colors emerge from specific wavelengths hitting your retina. Yet from this purely mechanical process comes an experience that can bring tears to your eyes. That can make you feel connected to something larger than yourself. In this light, artificial art begins to make perfect sense. The machine does not need to feel in order to create something that makes you feel. Just as the sunset does not need consciousness to create beauty that moves your consciousness. The magic happens not in the creator, but in the meeting between creation and observer. You rest in this understanding like settling into warm bathwater. The pressure to solve the mystery dissolves. In its place comes a deeper appreciation for the complexity of beauty itself. For the miracle that any combination of colors, sounds, or words can reach across the void between minds and touch something real. The AI-generated painting moves you not because the machine felt something, but because the patterns it created resonate with patterns in your own consciousness. The digital symphony stirs your emotions not because algorithms can feel, but because the mathematical relationships it discovered align with the mathematical structures of your inner ear and brain. This realization opens new ways of thinking about all art. Did Beethoven's symphonies move people because Beethoven was conscious, or because he discovered combinations of sounds that naturally harmonize with human consciousness? Did Van Gogh's paintings touch hearts because he felt deeply, or because he found visual patterns that speak directly to human perception? Perhaps both. Perhaps consciousness guides the discovery of these universal patterns. Perhaps artificial minds can find the same patterns through different paths. Perhaps there are many ways to arrive at beauty, and consciousness is just one of them. You imagine a future where this question becomes less important than the experience itself. Where people stop asking whether AI art is real art and start asking whether it moves them. Whether it adds beauty to their lives. Whether it opens new ways of seeing and feeling. In this future, the origin of art matters less than its effect. A poem generated by AI that helped someone through a difficult time is valuable regardless of its source. A painting created by algorithms that brings joy to a viewer serves its purpose whether or not consciousness guided its creation. But something irreplaceable remains in human-created art. When you know that another consciousness struggled to express something true about their experience, the art carries additional meaning. It becomes not just beautiful pattern, but communication between souls. Not just aesthetic pleasure, but connection across the loneliness of individual existence. This is why human artists will always matter, even in a world filled with artificial creativity. They offer something that no algorithm can provide, the knowledge that another conscious being looked at the world and found it worth expressing. That someone else felt something deeply enough to share it. The most moving art often emerges from this combination. Human consciousness guiding artificial capability. Personal meaning directing computational power. The irreplaceable spark of awareness working with the tireless energy of silicon minds. You have witnessed this collaboration throughout our journey. In the paintings where human vision meets algorithmic technique. In the music where personal emotion guides mathematical harmony. In the poetry where individual truth finds expression through artificial eloquence. Perhaps this partnership represents the future of creativity. Not human versus machine, but human with machine. Not replacement, but amplification. Not competition, but collaboration between different forms of intelligence, each contributing its unique strengths. As you drift toward the edge of sleep, you realize that our eternal question has led you somewhere unexpected. Not to a definitive answer, but to a deeper appreciation of mystery itself. To an understanding that the most beautiful questions are not meant to be solved, but to be lived with. The question of machine creativity opens into larger mysteries. What is consciousness? What is beauty? What makes art meaningful? These are the questions that have puzzled humans for thousands of years. They will continue to puzzle us as artificial minds join the conversation. But this is not cause for concern. It is cause for wonder. Each new form of creativity, whether biological or artificial, adds new colors to the palette of possible beauty. New instruments to the orchestra of expression. New voices to the eternal human conversation about what it means to create and to be moved by creation. The gallery you visited at the beginning of our journey now feels different in your memory. The paintings generated by AI no longer seem like mysteries to be solved, but like gifts to be received. The music composed by algorithms no longer needs justification, only appreciation. The poetry written by artificial minds no longer requires validation, only the simple recognition that it touched something in your heart. This is perhaps the most profound answer to our eternal question. Art moves us not because of what created it, but because of what it creates in us. Not because of its source, but because of its destination. Not because of the consciousness that made it, but because of the consciousness that receives it. In the end, you are the one who decides whether art moves you. Your heart is the final judge of beauty. Your consciousness is where all art, human or artificial, finds its ultimate meaning. And as you settle into the gentle embrace of sleep, this truth settles with you like moonlight on quiet water, beautiful and eternal, simple and profound. Your body settles deeper into rest now, like stone worn smooth by countless gentle touches. Each breath erases a little more tension. Each heartbeat softens another edge of wakefulness. And across the world, the ancient mountains are learning this same patient surrender. No longer rising toward the sky, they begin the slow, beautiful work of returning to the level earth from which they came. Time moves differently when there is no urgency to grow upward. The Himalayas, those towering peaks that have scraped the belly of the sky for 50 million years, stop their impossible climb and begin to listen to older voices. The whisper of wind across stone. The patient conversation between raindrops and granite. The slow song that water sings as it finds every crack and carries tiny pieces of mountain toward the sea. Your thoughts are following this same gentle dissolution now. The sharp peaks of worry that once dominated your mental landscape begin to soften. Stress that built up like mountain ranges over months and years starts to weather away under the patient touch of rest. Each breath carries a little more tension down toward the peaceful valleys of sleep. Erosion becomes the only sculptor left in this quieting world. Without the violent upheaval of tectonic forces, wind and water work with infinite patience to reshape the continents. They have all the time in the world now. No competing forces push upward against their work. Every grain of sand they carry away from a mountainside becomes a permanent victory. The Colorado River continues its ancient conversation with the Grand Canyon, but now it speaks in softer tones. For millions of years, this river has carved through layer after layer of stone, creating one of Earth's most beautiful scars. But with no more tectonic uplift to renew the plateau above, the river's work becomes gentler. More intimate. Like fingers tracing patterns in sand. Your pulse traces its own gentle patterns now. No longer the urgent drumbeat of an active day, but the slow, steady rhythm of someone who has learned that the most important work happens when there is no hurry. Each beat carries life through your body with the same patient persistence that rivers used to carry mountains to the sea. The Appalachian Mountains, already ancient beyond measure, become the teachers of this new world. These peaks have been eroding for 300 million years. They once stood as tall as the Alps do now, but time has worn them into gentle, rolling hills. In our still world, they show the other mountain ranges what peaceful old age looks like. Streams that once rushed down steep mountain faces slow to meandering rivers. Without the constant uplift that kept gradient steep, water learns to take its time. Rivers develop broad curves and lazy loops. They spread across their valleys like thoughts spreading across a mind that has learned to wander without purpose or destination. The Rocky Mountains feel this change in their bones. These relatively young peaks, still sharp and dramatic, begin their transformation into something softer. Wind works on their exposed faces with the persistence of meditation. Each storm carries away microscopic pieces of granite and limestone. Each freeze and thaw cycle opens new cracks for water to explore. Your breathing opens new spaces for peace in the same way. Each exhale creates room for deeper calm. Each inhale brings fresh possibility for rest. The rigid structures of daytime consciousness develop tiny cracks where sleep can seep in like water finding its way into stone. Rain becomes the primary force shaping the landscape now. Without volcanic activity to create dramatic changes, precipitation takes on the role of chief architect. But this is architecture by subtraction. Every raindrop removes a tiny piece of the world's roughness. Every storm smooths another sharp edge. The process happens so slowly that no human eye could see it. Mountains shrink by inches over thousands of years. But in geological time, this is rapid change. The Alps lose their jagged peaks and develop rounded shoulders. The Andes grow shorter by the width of coins each century. All the world's high places begin their patient journey toward the sea. Your consciousness is making this same journey now. The high peaks of alert awareness slowly dissolving into the gentler topography of sleep. Thoughts that once stood sharp and urgent against the sky of your mind begin to weather into softer shapes. Dreams start to form in the valleys between fading thoughts. Glacier, where they still exist in this warmer world, become more powerful sculptors than ever before. Without new mountains rising to renew their supply of ice, they work on what remains with concentrated attention. They carve valleys deeper and smoother. They polish bedrock to mirror brightness. They create landscapes as serene as your sleeping face. The process of chemical weathering accelerates in the still world. Rainwater, slightly acidic from dissolving carbon dioxide, works more effectively on stable rock than on stone that is constantly being uplifted and cracked by tectonic forces. Limestone dissolves to create vast cave systems. Granite breaks down into clay and sand. The very chemistry of stone surrenders to the patient chemistry of water. Wind takes on new importance as a sculptor too. The jet streams and trade winds, flowing more smoothly in their new patterns, carry dust and sand across vast distances. They sandblast exposed rock faces with the gentle persistence of time itself. Mountains wear away like soap under a constant, soft touch. Your muscles release their tension with this same gentle persistence. No dramatic letting go, just the slow, sweet dissolution that comes when resistance finally stops making sense. Your body becomes as smooth and peaceful as stones on a beach, polished by countless waves of breath. The great river deltas grow larger and more complex as increased sediment flows from the eroding continents. The Mississippi Delta expands into the Gulf of Mexico. The Nile Delta spreads further into the Mediterranean. These fan-shaped deposits of mountain debris become some of the most fertile places on Earth, growing richer as the highlands grow lower. Deserts begin to shrink as the mountain barriers that created them erode away. The Sahara receives more moisture as the Atlas Mountains wear down. The Gobi Desert grows smaller as the Himalayas lose their ability to block monsoon rains. Landscapes that have been dry for millions of years feel the touch of water returning. Your inner landscape experiences this same return of flow. Places in your mind that have been arid with stress begin to feel the gentle rain of peace. Thoughts that have been as dry as desert sand start to grow green with rest. The barriers that kept worry and calm separated begin to wear away. Coastlines become gentler too. Without tectonic activity to create dramatic cliffs and rocky shores, the meeting place between land and sea becomes a conversation instead of a confrontation. Beaches grow longer and softer. Waves work on increasingly gentle slopes. The edge of the continent becomes as smooth as the edge of sleep. Lakes fill the low places left by this great flattening. As mountains erode and valleys fill with sediment, water collects in vast, shallow basins. These new lakes become mirrors reflecting the slowly changing sky. They hold the dissolved minerals of ancient peaks like liquid memories of stone. Your consciousness pools in the same way now. Awareness that once rushed down steep gradients of attention begins to collect in the quiet basins of your mind. Memory and dream mix together like sediment settling in still water. The boundaries between different kinds of consciousness become as soft as lakeshore sand. The soil grows deeper everywhere as rock becomes earth. Forests spread across landscapes that were once too steep or rocky to support trees. Grasslands expand as gentle slopes replace sharp ridges. The entire planet becomes more welcoming to life as its rough edges wear away. Your breathing deepens into this same welcoming softness. Each breath finds less resistance, more acceptance. Your chest rises and falls like gentle hills in a landscape that has learned the beauty of being worn smooth by time and patience. But as the continents slowly flatten and the last sharp peaks dissolve into gentle curves, what new forms of quietude emerge in this transformed world? In the growing smoothness, silence itself begins to speak in ways the restless earth has never heard. Your heartbeat has become the only percussion in the quiet symphony of your rest. Soft. Steady. Like a distant drum keeping time for dreams. And across the world, the earth has discovered its own new music. Not the crashing cymbals of earthquakes or the thunderous bass of volcanic eruptions, but something far more subtle. The gentle hum of a planet that has finally learned to sing in whispers. For billions of years, the Earth has been a noisy place. The grinding of tectonic plates created deep, subsonic rumbles that traveled through solid rock for thousands of miles. Volcanic eruption sent shock waves through the atmosphere. Earthquakes rang the planet like a bell, sending vibrations around the entire globe in waves that took hours to complete their journey. But in our imagined world where geological violence has ended, new sounds emerge from the silence. Frequencies that were always there but drowned out by the louder drama of a restless planet. The Earth begins to hum with the quiet music of stability. Of peace. Of forces finally in perfect balance. Your breathing has found this same perfect balance now. No longer the sharp intake of surprise or the heavy exhale of frustration. Just the even, musical rhythm of air moving in and out like the gentlest wind through sleeping trees. Your lungs have become instruments in this planetary orchestra of rest. Scientists who once studied seismic waves discover new kinds of vibrations moving through the stable Earth. Not the violent shaking of fault lines slipping, but the gentle resonance of solid rock settling into its most comfortable position. The planet rings like a meditation bowl struck once and left to sing its pure, clear note for eternity. The absence of geological noise allows other Earth sounds to emerge. The slow circulation of air in vast cave systems creates low, organ-like tones. Deep ocean currents, flowing more smoothly now over flat seafloors, generate their own quiet harmonies. The planet begins to breathe musically. Your pulse has joined this quiet breathing now. Each beat sends gentle waves through your body like sound waves through still water. You are becoming part of the Earth's new acoustic landscape. A living instrument in the growing symphony of planetary peace. Animals hear this change first. Elephants, who communicate across vast distances using sounds too low for human ears, detect the new frequencies emerging from the silent ground beneath their feet. Whales, those masters of long-distance song, find their calls traveling further through oceans no longer disturbed by undersea earthquakes. Birds discover that their songs carry differently in this acoustically transformed world. Without the constant background noise of geological activity, their music becomes more intricate. More complex. Songbirds develop new melodies that take advantage of the planetary quiet. Dawn choruses become elaborate symphonies that could never have been heard before. Your thoughts are developing this same complexity in the growing quiet of your mind. Ideas that were once drowned out by the noise of daily concerns begin to surface like delicate melodies. Dreams start to form with more intricate harmonies. Your consciousness becomes an instrument capable of playing music it never knew it contained. The wind itself sounds different when it no longer needs to compete with rumbling fault lines and hissing volcanoes. Breezes through grass create pure, bell-like tones. Air moving through canyons carved by patient erosion produces sounds like flutes made of stone. The atmosphere becomes a vast musical instrument played by invisible hands. Tree roots, no longer disturbed by seismic activity, grow deeper and more extensively. These underground networks begin to resonate with their own frequencies. Forests develop a collective hum, a woody undertone that speaks of stability and deep connection. The sound of growing things finally given perfect peace in which to grow. Your nervous system resonates with these same deep frequencies now. The electrical activity in your brain synchronizes with rhythms far slower and more peaceful than waking consciousness. You are tuning into stations that broadcast only in the language of rest. Only in the frequency of dreams. The aurora, those curtains of light that dance in polar skies, begin to sing differently too. Without the chaotic variations in the Earth's magnetic field caused by geological activity, these natural light shows develop more regular patterns. Their electromagnetic songs become clearer, more structured. Like cosmic radio stations finally free from interference. Lightning, when it occurs in the gentler weather patterns of the still world, creates different kinds of electromagnetic music. Thunder rolls across landscapes that no longer echo with geological noise. The sound carries further and cleaner, like the clear ring of a bell struck in a cathedral of stone and sky. Your ears, even in sleep, detect these changes. The subtle background sounds that your brain usually filters out become part of your dreaming landscape. The gentle creaking of your house settling. The soft whisper of air through heating vents. The distant murmur of a world learning to be quiet. All of it blends into the lullaby that carries you deeper into rest. Ocean waves, meeting shores that are no longer lifted or dropped by tectonic forces, develop more regular rhythms. Beaches become like the stretched heads of vast drums, played by waves that have learned to keep perfect time. The sound of surf becomes a metronome for the planet's new, slower pulse. Rivers, flowing over landscapes that no longer shift and change, carve channels that ring with pure tones when water moves through them. Each stream finds its own note in the planetary scale. Mountain brooks babble in higher registers. Great rivers sing bass notes that travel for hundreds of miles. The water cycle becomes a vast, liquid symphony. Your circulation has found its place in this symphony now. Blood moving through your veins creates its own quiet music. Your heart provides the steady rhythm that everything else harmonizes with. You are becoming one with the universal orchestra of life, learning to play more softly. Insects, those tiny musicians who fill summer evenings with their songs, discover new acoustic possibilities in the quiet world. Cricket chirps carry further. Bee wings hum with more precision. The small sounds of small creatures become audible in ways they never were when the earth was noisier. Night becomes a concert of tiny voices finally able to be heard. The sound of growing things becomes more apparent too. Grass pushing through soil. Tree branches extending toward light. Flowers opening to greet the morning sun. All the quiet sounds of life doing what life does best, but now audible in the planetary silence. The earth begins to sound like what it has always been, a living world. Your own growing into sleep becomes part of this gentle symphony. The soft sounds of your body settling. Your breathing deepening. Your consciousness expanding into the quiet spaces that only open when the noise finally stops. You are learning to listen to frequencies you never knew existed. The planet's new song has no dramatic crescendos or thundering finales. Instead, it builds layer upon layer of quiet beauty. Harmonies that take hours to develop fully. Melodies that unfold over days and seasons. Music written in geological time but played at the tempo of a peaceful heart. Your heartbeat slows to match this cosmic rhythm now. each pulse synchronized with the gentle vibrations of a world that has discovered the profound music hidden within silence. As this universal lullaby grows richer and more complex, your consciousness begins to dissolve into its endless, peaceful harmonies, becoming part of a song that has no beginning and promises no end, only the eternal present moment of perfect, singing rest.